2 races are in the books, and there have been 4 different winners in Season 2 so far, but it's familiar faces filtering to the top. In GTE, the Italian duo hit the ground running with a spectacular double podium at Suzuka, but you have to be in it to win it, and with no free rides in the KRL, back-to-back podiums put Season 1 champion Jennifer McDonald at the top of the charts. Race 1 was chaos in LMP2, with every car in the field receiving a drive-through penalty, although things settled down at single incident in the race, it was enough to take the pole sitter out and leave the rest of the pack scrambling for the win. Contenders emerged. Then it was a game of hot potato with the lead until Dennis Rotter finally claimed the prize. He'll lead the LMP field to the grid with the points lead. With visions of the 12 hours dancing in their heads, a fortnight at Sebring begins with 2 hours around the iconic circuit. It's the Night Racing League Sportscar Championship. Race 3 is next. Hello everybody, and thanks for a double shot there from Vans of Japan. We are at sunset at Sebring International Circuit for race number 3 of the Night Racing Sports Car Championship. 2 hours tonight around the iconic Sebring circuit before heading off to Road Atlanta for the first time. Then a 2-hour shot at Daytona. We'll cross the pond for the Nürburgring, Spa-Francorchamps, and finish it all up at Le Mans on the 29th of May. Race 3 here this weekend as everybody getting ready for the 12 hours next weekend. And what a perfect chance to get your setups done, test some strategy, tire management. As they finish up their 30-minute warm-up, the 2-hour races have slightly longer sessions. And while they finish up that 30-minute warm-up, let's have a look at the points. Dennis Rotter taking over the point lead last week with his win at Watkins Glen. He's got a 4-point lead over countryman Andre Heinrich. Philip Stritter 20 points back ahead of Paul Seeley, who just holds a single-point lead over Thomas Bromelu, who had that bad luck in turn 1. He looks to run strong here today and get himself back up to the top of that point standings. Andre Schwartz, Keith Rainey, Dean Ellico, and Dawson Hess is here for his first race of the season. In GTE, as Jens Wolters makes his way back onto pit road, Jennifer McDonald taking over the points lead ahead of Jens. Dan Piazza not here. We're starting to worry if the Wave Italy team are a one and done, but we'll see what happens. Kevin Hensel holds that 4th place, tied with Toby Seninger, who had a great recovery in Watkins Glen and looking to keep going strong here at Sebring. Kevin Cordy, Steve Groninga, Mark Sonnen, they're all here this weekend, as are John Dinkle in the Ford. It's great to have all 5 cars represented here in the grid at GTE. The other difference here today with a 2-hour race, they will have 15 minutes for qualifying rather than 10 minutes that we've seen in the first opening 2 90-minute races. So the LMPs will go out for 15 minutes, and as long as they're on the back straight when the 15 minutes expires, they'll be able to come around and complete their laps. Otherwise, they have to go straight to pit road. The GTE cars will then head out for the final 15 minutes of the half-hour session. So as the sun goes down, we get ready for qualifying here. Race number 3 of the Night Racing Sports Car Championship. Sit back and enjoy. It should be a good one. We've got 10 cars in both classes here this weekend. Little lock up there for Kevin Cordy. As qualifying setups all added in now, and we'll get going here in just a second or two. Welcome to what is a very busy fortnight here in Florida. The 2 hours here today into the darkness, and then lots of teams competing in the 6 hours tomorrow. Of course, we're on a day delay. This race happening on a Saturday. The 6 hours tomorrow. We know the Night Racing Esports blue and black cars are both competing as qualifying is getting underway. And of course, next weekend, the 12 hours of Sebring special events. So that's going to be what everybody is getting prepared for, as the LMPs are out for 15 minutes of qualifying. That is different from the previous two races. The longer events have an extra 5 minutes for the classes. And there is Dawson Hess in the 67 in his first event here this season. Dawson rejoining us from season 1. And he's looked pretty handy in practice, so we'll see what the 67 car can do. As I say that, he goes off circuit on cue at the hairpin. Up front, there was a brief look at Thomas Brommel and his teammate Dennis Rotter. Dennis winning in Watkins Glen after Thomas had pole and taken out in that turn 1 incident. Looking to have a little bit better luck here today. The Unleashed cars really looking like it's going to, they're going to put up a big fight here with the switch-it driver of Andre Heinrich especially. Those three have been inseparable on the timing sheets. There is Philip Stritter in the 42, who came back to a good finish in Watkins Glen after that incident. However, did pick up a penalty, so will be looking to keep his nose clean here today. Boy, the commentator's curse is flying strong today, isn't it? As soon as you call somebody, they end up off the track there. No harm, no foul. As the cars start their first timed laps here. And first on the circuit is Brommel in the 4 car. And that'll be our first representative lap. The LMP's not really stretching themselves out. Heinrich was the last one out of the pits. There you see one of the esports cars pulling over to let him go. That's Dean Ellico in the 429. And there's the 473. That is Oliver Schlabs in his first race here. We welcome Oliver to the grid. He was at 2 of the 3 practice sessions we had on this short week and looking quite quick. He's going to slot himself into that second group of LMPs that's getting very crowded in the field with Seeley, Alico, Rainey, Schwarz, Keith Mannery, or Nick Mannery if we ever get him back on the grid. So quite a bunch of competitive LMPs in that group. As Brommel has taken the inside line there, I wonder if he got a slowdown coming through Le Mans, or if he's slotting himself in to get a tow here. This is the first timed lap, but it's going to be Stritter that goes to the top of the sheets with that pass. It certainly looked intentional, so not sure what's going on there. A 46.8 for Stritter. Dawson Hess will slot in with a 47.4 into second. Not surprising, Brommel may be one of the slower cars with that pullover on the back straightaway. Dennis Rotter, a 47.2, will slot himself into second place temporarily. And a good lap from Andreas Schwarz, a 47.447. And he will take inside row 2 for the moment. As we're watching the sector times, that is Schlabs off the circuit. Just coming out of turns 3, 4, 5 there. Stritter looking good here in this one. He is green, sectors 1 and 3, and purple in sector 2. Rotter quickest in 1 and 3, so the 011 and the 42 swapping fast sector times here. Stritter first on the circuit, so he has the open track in front of him. Another purple sector for the 42 car. Let's see if he can improve on that 46.8. There is the 72 of Canadian Paul Seeley. Currently in 7th place, the first driver in the 48s. Particularly handy as Brommel improves to a 47.2. Heinrich up to a 47.0. Dennis Rotter, 46.3. A big jump up there, but Stritter also improved. A 46.291 is still pole. Ellico crosses for his first time lap, a 52.6, so that is off the pace. Schlab's in the pits. We saw him off briefly. He's done a single lap. Plenty of time if you want to do 2 runs here. With 15 minutes, you could certainly go out and do a couple of hot laps, come back in, put on some fresh boots, and see if you can improve with a lighter fuel load or even do another couple of laps. With the 10-minute qualifying in the previous races, we saw pretty much a straight-up 10-minute run, but here there are options, so we'll see what drivers do. Schlab's in the pits. Rotter again, purple on the first sector. It's Brommel right now, who seems to be having the lap. Coming down the back straightaway, maybe picking up a little tow from that 42 car. 3 greens and a purple on this lap. And we'll see where the 4 car goes. Currently sitting in 4th, Stritter to the pits. Brommel improves to row number 2 on the inside with a 46.576. About halfway through the session, you can see Stritter and Rotter in the pits. So just what we thought, splitting the session in 2s, fresh tires and a light load of fuel, and back out onto the circuit goes the 42 car. There is Andreas Schwarz also into the pits. Dawson Hess outside row 3 at the moment. As you mentioned, his first race of the season, so it'll be great to see Dawson out there. Heinrich in behind. At the 15-minute mark, we'll switch over to GTEs. And what is always shaping up to be a fascinating battle. Jens Wolters again looking formidable in the 24 BMW. This is the corner of interest here. Dawson just coming onto the back straightaway, and he's pulling over what looks like a slowdown. If you are on the Almond Straight when the clock strikes 15 minutes, you may finish your lap. If you have not made it through Le Mans Corner and onto the Almond Straight, you must bring your car to pit road. And of course, after crossing the line, they are not allowed to pass GTE cars. That sounded like a brush on the wall, didn't it? That was the 429 of Dean Ellico. That's Keith Rainey in the 6 car, but I believe the 429 may have clipped that inside wall on turn 1. Doesn't look any worse for wear. Dean currently with a 49-111 and 10th on the grid. Heinrich in the pits now, as is Rotter. Rotter has not come back out. He has a front row position. The car is sitting in the garage. Schwarz as well has not ventured back out onto the circuit. Currently sitting in 5th place with a 47.219. Lots of work here to do for Dean Ellico. 2/10 off the newcomer in the 473. The sun setting. This will be a night race. It was quite something when they came out for the start of the 30-minute practice. They don't call it sunset for nothing. The sun directly in the eyes of these guys coming down the Ullman Straight. Would also be in the eyes as they enter the hairpin. Luckily, that bridge at least gives you a moment to pick out the cones in your braking zone. But these guys all very happy that the sun has dipped down. Ellico is coming to the pits, so I wonder if there was a little damage on that car. We heard him brush that inside wall. And with only 3 minutes remaining, he'd have to turn that car around very quick. I'm not even sure he could make it to the Albon Straight. And, oh, Seeley with a little power slide there out of Le Mans. Yeah, I'm not sure Dean could actually make it around in order to get to a point on the circuit where he could finish a timed lap. So he may be done here. And starting on the outside of row 5. Not seeing too many improvements. Seeley is green in 2 sectors. There's the 72 car, currently sitting in 8th place with a 48.5. He has to do a heck of an improvement. Keith Rainey is a second a lap faster here, so that would be quite a jump for the 72 car, who has made it into pit road and is on his second set of tires. Thomas Brommel green in his first sector, but that's pretty much it. You'd think the track would be speeding up as it goes down. We've got pretty cool temperatures here. 26-degree track at the moment. And Seeley with no improvement on that last lap. That last lap was a 49.5. Well, we saw him come out of Le Mans a little squirrely. So that's where the lap time went on there. He had 2 green sectors. Dawson Hess into the pits. A minute and a half left in the session. He is 6th on the grid. Project Dynamic car into the pit box. I want to tell you there's something to watch. We have a couple of greens for a Heinrich, but that was on his last lap, so no improvement there either. A 46.940 last time around. Seeley to pit road, so the 72 is done. It's looking like we may have our starting grid set for the LMPs here with 45 seconds remaining. With a 146.291, there is the 42 car of Philip Stritter. Dennis Rotter second. Brommel and Heinrich, as we see the GTEs starting to make their way down to pit road. Thomas Brommel putting in a purple sector here, as he got one last charge at the end of the session. He's allowed to complete this lap. And he puts it second at 46.319. So the antagonists, as the GTEs make it out onto the circuit, the antagonists from Watkins Glen will line up on the front row. Philip Stritter on pole, a 46.291, beside Thomas Brommel, a 146.319. Row 2 is Dennis Rotter and Andre Heinrich as the Switch It and Unleash teams lock out the front two rows. Andreas Schwarz, the first car in the 47s, a 219, ahead of Dawson Hess in the 67, a 147.496. Row 4 is Keith Rainey and Paul Seeley, the Night Racing Esports teammates. And row 5, Oliver Schlabs and Dean Ellico. And that is your LMP grid here at Sebring. We're 10 and 10 here. As all the front runners, look at them. Hensel, Fowler, and McDonald all together, where usually we see Wolters and Seninger come out with a gap. They've done that again. All the way at the back, just now getting to the hairpin. There's the 24, and in behind him, the 488 Ferrari of Toby Seninger, who, if we pan back, you can see is running the SMP livery. A little different from the Hublot livery he ran last race. Searching to find the lucky livery, says Toby. Until he wins a race, he's going to put a new one on. So it is the historic Ferrari GTE livery look back until Toby can find himself the top step. And we're looking forward to that. There are some beautiful ones out there, so running that beautiful red and blue SMP Ferrari livery here today. The LMP's stragglers make their way back into pit road as we await the first of the GTE times, and on track first is the 99 of Jen McDonald. Just coming through Fangio. The hard braking zone to the right-hander at Cunningham. And currently with the points lead, but Jens Wolters is looking like he wants to put a stamp on this series. Of course, problems of his own doing at the first race in Suzuka, a 14th place finish, only a single point for entry, but he came back strong with the win at Watkins Glen. And although Jennifer has the point lead, it's only 11. 38 points for first, 27 for second, 25. They drop off quickly, so race wins very, very important, as that is Cordy in the background pushing off at Le Mans. As we come through sunset, and we are well past sunset now, you can see the headlamps showing off the circuit, and we will get our first GTE qualifying time of the day. McDonald, a 156.733, and they'll come thick and fast now with Hensel, a 56.9. Fowler on pole. He puts the Corvette on provisional pole with a 156.432. John Dinkle in the Ford, 56.9. There is John, who didn't have the best of debuts, but has looked pretty handy here today. And it is fantastic we say it every time because it's been rare. We never saw it in Season 1, but when John is here, we have all 5 manufacturers represented on the grid. We, of course, have a lot of Corvette, BMWs, and Porsches, but one Ford here from John Dinkle, and, of course, the Ferrari of Toby Seninger. And it has to be said that Seninger chose that Ferrari specifically because of how many M8s we had in the grid. He was going to drive a BMW this season, but switched because he didn't want to be part of that. He wanted to have his unique car, and he took the Ferrari. Certainly looks like an okay choice for him. He's been very competitive and sits on the front row at the moment, a 55.780. Mark Sonnen in the 111. In 7th place, a 157.948 from Mark. As Jens Wolters, purple, on the first 2 sectors here. The 24 car on pole now as he and Seninger both nipping Fowler, and McDonald has done the same. A 155.963. Fowler and Hensel both go quicker, but Jen McDonald has moved inside of row number 2 with 8:50 remaining in qualifying. Kevin Cordy gets a good lap in there. Dinkle to the pits outside row 3 at the moment, so maybe he's going to put some fresh boots on. Here comes Wolters and Seninger down the back straightaway. Wolters purple in the first 2 sectors. Seninger green in sector 2. See how much, if an improvement, they make. Seninger improves to a 55.595. Wolters lost a little bit on that last lap, a 55.568, so just a 10th slower than his best. Seninger closes the gap, but is still second. They've got 4 tenths, 3.5 to be fair, on McDonald. Fowler just a tenth of a second behind McDonald. As we watch the 7 of Kevin Cordy. And a little bit of a push off there entering Le Mans by Sonnen. Kevin Hensel having himself a good lap. Here he comes out of the final sector. 4 green sectors for Kevin. He will improve to a 56.368. Still inside row number 3. Just trying to pick up Fowler on the map. He had a good lap, but he's gone to the pits. Everybody getting set for their second runs. I believe that was Fowler we just saw making his way out of pit road. Steve Groninga up to a 57.356. That's going to put him outside of row 4. As Cordy heads to pit road, and I believe that's Chris Thompson also making his way to pit road. Seninger a 55.595. Toby, not an improvement in the first sector. We'll see if he's got anything for Jens. He's got some traffic, although Sonnen moves over. And a puff of smoke on the apex from That would have been John Dinkle just in front. We got a little bit of a toe down Allman. And we'll see, Toby is green in the second sector. Not improving on his best lap times. Oh, purple in the fifth sector. 7 sectors here at Sebring for our timing sheets here. So Toby, it's looking like he could improve, and he doesn't need much here to try and get pole position. It's 1.1 tenths of a second behind Jens Wolters, who was in the pits. He's back out on circuit now. Jens just coming through Fangio. Is over the line, taking a very inside line. And no improvement. 155.870 that time around. Everyone back on circuit. Steve Groninga, the only... Chris Thompson in the garage. Sonnen has another little squirrely bit down there at turn 3. Chris Thompson has gone to the garage. He's going to start in 10th. And Groninga in the pits. We'll see if he goes out for one last run. He has pushed the car back to the garage as well. And we're hearing from pit road that Dawson Hess is having some issues with an ankle, is what I'm being told. He's hurt his ankle under braking of one of the hard zones, either the hairpin, I suppose, or Cunningham. And he is not going to race in this race. He went out for a second stint in qualifying, couldn't complete the lap. So that's terrible news for Dawson, as this would have been his first race of the season. And it's going to put us down to 9 cars on the grid for the LMP class. So terrible news there. As we have 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. John Dinkle comes back onto the front stretch. 3 green sectors for John, and he does improve to a 56.804. And that is outside of row 3. Not an improvement on grid, but puts a little bit of breathing space between he and Kevin Cordy. It's now a little more than 3 tenths separating those two. Jens is out. He's put in a couple of good sectors. And John looking a little quicker again here as we cut back to the Ford. There are no track limits here for the GTEs, of course. They get to go right to the end of the session. The clock will hit 0, but if they cross the line, they get to come back around to finish that lap. And a quick sector 1, but not an improvement after that. He's following the car that's chasing him here in qualifying. McDonald crosses the line, 56.418 that time around. 2 green sectors for Jen, but not an improvement on lap time. And it looks like everybody, I'm just trying to do the timing in my head here, certainly Seninger is going to make it to the start-finish line. Oh, he's coming to the pits. So Toby's done. Cordy and Dinkel will be able to finish their lap. Sonnen is coming around, and he's going to make the line as well. So Mark can do one more lap here as he crosses the line with 4 seconds remaining in the session. And we'll just watch the lap times. Volter's the first to come around. He's not improving. I expect we'll see the 24 car cut to the pits. Here is Kevin Hensel in behind him. Kevin Green in Sector 3. Mark Sonnen around again. So really pushing there. But that's going to ruin that lap. Hensel does have a green sector. We'll cut to Kevin here in the 94. He'll have the deltas on his dashboard. He's going to come around and complete it. And he does improve, but it's a 56.246. He will start inside row number 3. John Dinkel is not quicker on this lap. So we'll run down the GTE grid here as things settle out. Jens Wolters is on pole with a 55.486. We'll line up beside Toby Seninger with a 55.595. Row 2, points leader Jennifer McDonald, 55.963. Inside of Hayden Fowler in the 28 Corvette C8R, a 156.057. Row 3, Kevin Hensel and John Dinkel. Kevin Cordy will line up inside of Steve Groniga in row number 4. And the 5th row, we'll see Mark Sonnen in the 111 Corvette, a 157.370, lining up inside of Chris Thompson in the number 66 Porsche. So as everybody gets set, getting their race trim in, and we will grid. It'll be a full pace lap here. And there is the 42 of Philip Stritter. Sticks it on pole. As everyone gets ready, we will have a full pace lap. I believe I already said that. It's the one great thing about the American circuits, as they give you the full laps. There is Heinrich, who will line up outside of row number 2. Everybody with their engines running except the 72. Andre Schwartz gets his car lined up. We await the unleashed cars. And of course you see the empty space in front of the 72. Dawson Hess is not going to take this start. He's going to be a DNS. I'm not sure if that was an existing problem, but apparently he's hurt his ankle. And he's going to have that up on ice and be watching this race from the pits. Dennis Rotter in row number 2, your Watkins Glen winner. And there is Thomas Brommel. As we're lined up for 2 hours around Sebring, the Porsche safety car makes its way down the front straight. We'll have the full 15-second gap for the GTE cars. And you see Jens just giving them a little bit of a wait here. It gives them the green on the back straightaway, and what you will see is the GTE cars swap over, because as pole is on the left side coming down the front straightaway, the pole sitter will get the inside, and there you see Jens pulling it over now. That gives the pole sitter the inside to sunset. as Night Racing League races start on the green light. And with the 15-second gap, the race is go on the back straightaway for the GTE cars. And we want the pole sitter to have the inside, so they swap over to accomplish that and get on with their pace lap. Dennis Rotter with I was going to say row 2 all by himself. That, of course, is not true. He's lined up beside Heinrich. It is Andreas Schwarz with row 3 all to himself. Also not allowed to close that gap up. If Seeley were to move up there, he could have a jump on Schwarz, and he qualified 2 positions behind. So that is also not allowed. If someone does not make the grid, that spot stays empty. So Andreas will have a little extra wiggle room to maneuver his car without the 67 of Hess beside him. Seeley must maintain his grid position beside and at the B pillar of the 6 car of Keith Rainey, who qualified ahead of him. Boy, we have got some. The GTE class, I get tingles just waiting for them to go every race. It is so close between all these drivers. Every one of them precise to a millimeter as well. I mean, the quality of racing these guys put in side by side every week, race in, race out. Volters, Seninger, McDonald, Fowler, Hensel's there, John Dinkel up to the 3rd row here. So just going to be fantastic as we come through sunset. The Porsche pace car will make its way off to the right, and we will be set for 2 hours of running. Stritter, your pole sitter now. And it's a quick green light. And Brommel gets the run. Rotter coming with him. And Rotter actually has the corner. Stritter drops to 3rd place. The GTE's away through sunset, nice and clean. And Stritter back past Rotter, coming through turns 3 and 4, and it is Thomas Brommel leading down the back straightaway ahead of Stritter. And he's clipped again! Again! And that is Rainey. Stritter regains the circuit. We've got cars around all over. There is Thomas Brommel hit in the rear for the 2nd race in a row. And we'll see what the stewards have to say about that. We'll get a look at it here in a minute. The GTEs all together. Rainey is now past Stritter, who is going very slowly and gone off the circuit again. Here come the GTE cars. McDonald 2nd, Toby Seninger having a look here. And Stritter has pulled off. So plenty of damage, but a battle here for 2nd in GTE all over the tail of McDonald, who has made up a place here on the start ahead of Seninger. Oh, and off onto the grass. I don't think they touched. A flash of the lights. I'm not sure what that means. That was a left rear on the grass, but it's going to give Hayden Fowler the run down the back straightaway, and he will take second place. A puff of smoke from Kevin Hensel. Seninger gets the inside through Sunset, and they're going to drag race down to turn one. What an opening lap in GTE. All of that gives Jens Wolters a bit of a gap. Hayden Fowler second, Jen McDonald in third. And Seninger has dropped from the front row to fourth place. He's got a great toe. Here comes Toby down the inside. And he will make that move stick. Next in line is the 229 of John Dinkle, who has got ahead of Kevin Hensel in the 94 Corvette, and he's now right on the tail of these lead drivers. An exciting start. Stritter has retired, we are told, after another eventful opening lap for the 42 car, and what a shame, as Philip debuted with a fourth place at Suzuka, recovered to second at Watkins Glen, so a very good start despite that penalty. And with a pole position here today, things were looking pretty good, but he got passed by two cars before that corner, and well, we all saw what happened there. We'll get a replay in a sec once things cycle through and settle down here. As we approach 5 minutes, the completion of lap number 2. Toby Seninger up to third place. Up front, it's Dennis Rotter in LMP2, and you can see Andre Heinrich now in behind. And they've got quite a gap here on, there's Andreas Schwarz in third place. Paul Seeley from 8th on the grid up to 4th place. As Mark Sonnen has made the move for 8th on Steve Groninga. That going down into turn number 3. So things are all shuffled around in LMP. And we'll get a look at the race start here. And you can see Stritter from a long way back. I'm not even sure he would have made that corner, and he's hit Brommel again. On board with the 42. Yeah, there is no way that car was going to make that corner. He's taken the escape road. Meanwhile, in behind them, that's Rainey getting a spectacular run, and he's just locked the rears. Collected Schlab with that spin. Onboard Dean Ellico, it's all happening in front of us here. Smoke, smoke, smoke. There goes Rainey. Seeley to the inside stays clean. So does Ellico. And that puts Seeley in 4th and Schwarz up to 3rd place. As we come back live here for a sec. And off the road there goes Dingle. That's going to allow Hensel a run down the inside, while what's going to turn into the outside. But he will take 5th place. So after dropping back at the start, the 94 car back to 5th where he qualified, and will now set his sights on Jennifer McDonald, who is in 4th place. Jen up to 2nd off the start, but had dropped back. That little mistake coming out of Le Mans, and both Fowler and then Seninger have a lap later getting past. Dinkel still looking racy here as they come down to the hairpin. The beautiful lighting on that Ford GT. Especially nice at night, and as he runs all over the back there. Just checking our gaps. Schwartz, Ellico, Rainey, they are all very close. As we come out of Sunset to complete lap number 5, Thomas Brommel, you see there in 7th, and is making his way to the back of this battle for 5th between Ellico, Rainey. Seeley is pulled away just a little bit in front of them. He's got about 1.5 seconds of a gap. And he is 4 seconds behind the 204 of Andre Schwartz, who's actually holding on quite nicely in the back of the 32 car. This is the action on track. I say with no disrespect to this action on track. As Settinger having a look on Fowler's down into turn number 3. Keeps his nose in there. Fowler will have to stay out wide on the concrete, and they'll drag race down to the hairpin. Great exit of the corner by the Corvette. Do you want the lead or do you want the draft? Settinger has the draft, and he's not going to pop out here. And all that little fun gave Jen McDonald the opportunity to close this up and make it a 3-car race. Jonathan Dinkel dropping down the field. A little bit of an off there at the hairpin. As the tires start to lose their newness. What a great run here, is trying to get back into his qualifying position, the 488. Toby Settinger. Usually one to succumb to pressure. Hayden Fowler keeping that Corvette right on the racing line. If you're going to get by, you're going to have to do it properly. Having a peek down Almond Straight, but nothing doing into Sunset. Hayden Fowler once again singing the praises of Leighton Cater, who works on all of the night racing esports setups for this Corvette. He runs the Corvette team and is in charge of the European Endurance Series grids. 2 cars running tomorrow in the 6 hours. And Hayden saying this setup is just spectacular. And he's got the 28 in second place as Settinger pushes it wide just a little bit. McDonald watches on. On board now with the American. 3 different manufacturers challenging here for second place. Chevrolet, Ferrari, and BMW. 3 nationalities for what it's worth. Canadian leading a German, leading an American. As Thomas Brommel has made it past Keith Rainey. And now sets his sights on Dean Ellico in the 429. Seeley now has stretched this gap to 3.5 seconds over Dean. And I don't think he's worse for wear there. I don't even see the lights askew in the back of that 4 car, so as Ellico goes defensive into the hairpin, Bromwell's going to sit back there. A few Meanwhile, Corti has gotten around Kevin Hensel. Two big battles going on. Corti and Hensel just swapping back and forth. Here they are again. Hensel regains that fifth position. As Seninger continues to hound the 28. McDonald dropping back a little bit here. And Brommel on the main straight has the inside on Dean Ellico, and he will take 5th place. 2 KRE Sports cars down, 1 more to go. And it's 4 seconds up the road to the 72 Paul Sealer. In behind, Oliver Schlab's not far off that battle either. You can see his car right there with the purple lights at the back, so a 3-way fight for 6th. Even if Brommel, who we expect will pull away from this, we still have a 3-way battle. Speaking of battles, Seninger on the inside at Sunset. Fowler sticks it in, maybe a little momentum. The Ferrari looks good. He'll have the inside if he can keep his nose there. It looks like he will. And not yet, my friendly. The 28 car has to pinch the apex. Last of the late breakers, Toby leaves him a lane. But he's going to get it done. Great racing there, and Toby Seninger gets 2nd place back. Good news, bad news here. You got your 2nd place. It is now 6.5 seconds up to the leader. As wiggling there is Fowler under braking, but it actually looked like he gained gained time there. As Oliver Schlabs has caught the 6 of Keith Rainey and made the move on the outside of the main straightaway. So up to 7th place in his series debut. Brommel, Ellico, Schlabs now, and then Rainey in 8th. And those are the remaining LMPs running here. Philip Stritter, the pole sitter, retired on lap 1. Dawson Hess didn't make the starting grid. Meanwhile, back in GTE, Hayden Fowler's not done with this yet. And he is going to hound the 488 with the series points leader ready to clean up the scraps. The LMPs head down through Le Mans, and it'll be a good tow for the 6 car. A little bit of a wiggle by Schlab. And Keith has a good run down the Ullman Straight. Takes a peek. Oh, and they've touched. Another run into the back. Schlabs doesn't hit anything, but he's lost a lot of time here. Dean Ellico, as we start to come through the GT field. It was a very good run. but certainly he's not alongside. Schlabs goes for the corner, and you see a real close in speed there. Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to work out well, but we'll see. We've got a couple of things now for the stewards to look at. As the GTEs start to settle in a little bit, I would say, after 20 minutes. We've had a proper ding-dong here for the second place position. Everybody's held it at one point. But as things settle in, we get to check back up with our LMP race leaders. That is Andre Heinrich, finds himself in second place. And you can just catch the back of Dennis Rotter, who's not getting away from him. These two contested for the win at Watkins Glen, and it looks like they're going to do it again here. As the pole sitter is retired, and Brommel is once again having to recover through the pack. So half of the cars that should be in this battle are not in this battle. Making their way through traffic very well. And there's your race leader, the unleashed 011 of Dennis Rotter, the points leader after Watkins Glen. And we'll watch that gap carefully. Again, we'll go back on board with the 99 car, watching what is the closest battle on circuit. Keith Rainey is now pretty close to Elko again. We'll watch that gap as well. Brommel definitely taking chunks of time out of the 72 Sealy, who's short-lived occupation of the nosebleed section in LMP may be coming to a close. So bumpy through Sunset, and again in turn one, if we stay on board here, you'll see the bumps through this left-hander. As Mark Soden has dropped a couple of spots. Mark was having trouble in qualifying. Wonder if that's translated into the race. Drivers noticed just a little bit less grip in the 30-minute warm-up session than we had in the final practice on Thursday. And I wonder if that's catching some of the drivers out. The tracks are cooler. It's dark, but I mean, we did do the practice sessions in the dark. There's a little bit of a four-wheel drift by the Canadian, and that puts McDonald right up on the tail now of Hayden Fowler. In behind come the LMP leaders as they've made it to the front of the GT field. Beautifully done. This will be a case study in multi-class driving right here. As through goes Dennis Rotter, and in behind comes Andre Heinrich now. And he's going to wait for Le Mans and just pick these off on the straightaway. He's got the pace to clear Fowler down the back stretch. It's a 2-second gap. As Rotter beautifully cut his way through there. Seninger gets right out of the way. Allows the 32 by. And Keith Rainey back and forth with the 429 of Dean Ellico. He gets him into Sunset and then loses the position back out of Sunset. Then goes on the inside for turn 1. Closes the door, and Keith Rainey has the 6th car in 6th. Oh, and a wiggle as he tries to get the power on too soon. And that is certainly given Ellico the run. He's going to go to the outside and just forget about that. It may be opportunity lost there, or are they just losing time fighting? Is Rainey the quicker car? As they come by the GTE teammate of Fowler. Things are looking adventurous in that 6 car. He's already been around once and had contact with the 473. So he's maybe pushing that car right on its limits. Actually running in his qualifying position. No, he's up 1 actually. Didn't Rainey qualify 7th, so. McDonald now in the tow. Schwarz goes through in front. We got a move setting up here for the for turn 3, and if not turn 3, the hairpin. I wouldn't call that defensive line by Fowler. Boy, that rear end wiggles around a lot. We saw him do that into the hairpin a couple laps ago and do a little drift when we were on board. But he certainly wouldn't say it's out of control. It's he's certainly on the limit. That car right in the racing lines and quick. That rear end does like to wiggle around under the brakes, though. 3 hard braking zones in this on this circuit. Turns 3, the hairpin, which we just went through in Cunningham, where we're coming up to. As the fun continues, Ellico back in front of the 6 car. Rainey, a late deep dive, retakes the position. Holy moly, and then overcooks it again. Ellico has to go outside wide. How long can these two keep this up? I'm afraid to turn away again. As the battle goes single file, as the 72 comes through, a little bit of a pickup on the toe there for Hayden. And rinse and repeat for our 2 little battles. Groningen and Dinkel are also close together on the circuit. Quick look and see how fast. Not too close. As Jennifer's definitely filling those mirrors. Just in behind them is the ongoing battle between the KRL Sports cars. Rommel comes through, still trying to close that gap. It's about 3 seconds to the Canadian still. Well, this is handy. We should have this more often where both battles are on the same part of the track. We can just pan between them. Don't have to worry about cameras jumping away or watching gaps. We can just do this. Up front, Heinrich has closed that gap to 1.2 seconds. We're watching that as well. And John Dinkel has taken 7th place off Steve Groninga. Just as we checked that and saw that it was a big gap, he's closed it up. Everybody on the back straightaway. And Ellico lost a little bit of time in that exchange. He got out of Le Mans in behind. Rainey got a good run up through. So although they're all past now, a little bit of a gap there for the 6 car. Meanwhile, just up the road, Seeley has caught the GTE race leader, and there's Brommel behind him. Volter's now with an 8.2 second gap, so he has stretched that since Seninger took 2nd place. It was 6.25 seconds when that gap was made, or when Seninger finally got himself back up through the battle of the 28 and the 99. We'll see if that closes back down as the LMP field comes by Volters. They've already made it past Seninger. We'll see if that was traffic induced or if that was if that's actual pace. Just looking at the lap times here. 0.4 seconds last time around. That could certainly be traffic induced. And those would be their best times actually. Let me update that. And see what the last lap times were for these guys. That's what we should have on the race screen. And it was 0.6 seconds, the difference between them. We approach the 30-minute mark. As Heinrich has caught Rotter, we have a battle for the lead in LMP, and this coming just about 5 minutes before pit stops. Certainly Heinrich seems to have the pace. His best lap of 47.367. Ooh, and a little bit of dirt there, but he's still got the drive. Rotter the inside, though, and I don't think he's going to be doing anything into Tower Corner. That was coming out of Tower. This is Le Mans. Best laps of 47.021 for Heinrich. And a 47.544 for Rotter. So the 32 car definitely has the pace. And we're going to have a battle for the lead here. 90 minutes remaining. "17 laps in the books." They'll do over 60 here today. Fowler now trying to put any type of gap he can. And the 4 car in the pits. So Thomas Brommel, who was reeling in the 72 car, has pitted first. 2-hour race, we could have many different strategies here. And he's gone through. Is that a drive-through? That was a drive-through penalty for the 4 car. So he has obviously gone off. We know he would have had a 4X from the first turn. No time stopped on pit road, so Thomas Brommel having to serve a drive-through penalty there. And that puts him back in 7th place. Meanwhile, his teammate up front having to deal with Andre Heinrich. I'm just looking down here. It looks as if Oliver Schlabs also had a drive-through penalty. Oliver was hit by Rainey as a nice taking up the defensive line. Heinrich will put his car in there, doesn't collect any cones. Actually looked like he had to slow down and lift there at the apex. He was going to collect the rear of Rotter. The young German looking very racy here. Schwarz in behind him does a 1:47.8, his best of the race. That gap now 12.8 seconds. Back down the Ullman Straight, the other closest batter in GTE. As the LMP leaders come through Cunningham. We go on board with the 32 car. Into the night, Sebring, Florida. Maybe looking like he's content to ride here. We've got pit stops coming up. We don't know what the strategies are. And why risk an incident when you're going to come to the pits anyway? And even almost looking like he's backing off a little now. By Mike Sonnen, who had such a great race at Watkins Glen. And a little bit of struggles here today for the 111 cars, currently running down in 9th place. There's Oliver Schlabs just making his way into the pits as the GTE battle. Jennifer McDonald is ahead of Hayden Fowler. How did I miss that? If Hayden wasn't racing in a 6-hour race when this is scheduled to be broadcast, boy, I'd be getting it. I'd be getting all over it on the Discord here. So sorry we missed that, as Jennifer McDonald puts the BMW M8 into 3rd place in GTE. Schlabs in the pits. This is his first actual pit stop. He was down pit road for a drive-through earlier. I'm trying to think how he and Thomas got 8Xs. They've obviously been off track. We know they both had 4Xs from contact. I don't really recall them being off the road, as Keith Rainey has moved up the timing sheets, as Dean Ellico is as well. Schwarz and Seeley both in the pits. Thomas Brommel will go by. He, of course, still needs to come into the pits as he's only had a drive-through penalty. And the battle continues to rage up front. As we come around through Bishop and the LMP leaders clear the Ford GT through Le Mans and onto the back straightaway. The LMPs are out and the 72 car is back on track. In 7th, just looking at the pit time, Seeley a 24.4, Schwarz a 33.0. So a shorter fill for the Canadian. Doesn't gain him track position. But it's gained him track position. Hasn't gained him a position on the track. But it's a 4-second gap now to the 204 of Andre Schwarz. Rainey, Ellico, and Brommel have jumped those two, but are all expected down pit road. As we watch, Heinrich and Rotter now are in the pits. As Seeley, a lockup on the inside. Where is that? That's at Tower Corner. And he does not get the 72 past Toby Seninger. And now, you know what? With fresh fuel and a heavier car, he's just going to sit and wait. Brommel goes by as Rainey and Ellico have made it into the pits. Seeley now on the back straightaway will get dispatch of that Ferrari. And I'm not sure what happened on the entry there to Tower. No contact, but definitely not a place you want to be going in without 100% cooperation on both ends. And maybe looked like a bit of a late move by the 72 car. Ellico and Rainey slip back down. See if Seeley comes by there. The leaders are out in formation. Brommel, Rotter, and Heinrich still 0.7 of a second apart. And 7 seconds behind. Are you kidding me? Fowler's ahead of McDonald again. How am I missing these? We're going to have to do a separate feed just on the 28 and 99 cars. Back and forth. John Dinkel in the 229 is the first of the GTEs to make it into pit road. That's wide for Fowler. And we're going to see a pass on screen as McDonald goes through. So is that what's been happening? Have these two been just pushing it into corners and swapping it back and forth? This is kind of very similar to what we saw between Ellico and Rainey earlier on in the LMPs. They've made it back out of the pits, just checking the pit times, 34, 33.3. So everybody doing full fuel except the 72 of Seeley. He's the only car that looks to have short-filled. Brommel on pit road now. And that will regain the lead for Dennis Rotter. It was only a 7-second gap. So the LMPs will cycle through. We'll check Brommel's time stopped in the pits. He's just made it to his pit box. Schwarz is going to get by. And I imagine with a short fill, Seeley's going to get by. He does. Chris Thompson peels off in the 66 Porsche RSR. And Brommel leaves the pit box, stopped for 34.2 seconds, so that is fuel only as well. So the LMPs have cycled through. Everyone taking full fuel, no tires, except for the 72, who has short fueled with no tires. Meanwhile, Jennifer McDonald is in 3rd place in GTE, and I'm pretty sure that's where they were when we left them. It seems they've swapped every time we cut back to them. Yes, it's all coming back to me now. It was right here where Hayden had a little bit of a wide exit through the hairpin. Dean Ellico, fresh from service, looks to make a move down into Cunningham past these two. McDonald has the apex, and that's going to put out Fowler and spread that battle apart a little bit. Should have that move done before Bishop as we head in, and so I would say advantage McDonald on that exchange. Keith Rainey through the pits after running that entire segment with his teammate has pulled out a 6-second gap over the 429, and that little exchange with the GTE battle wouldn't have helped Dean, as the first of our GTE cars is in, and I believe I saw behind Seninger coming in, McDonald is coming in. So Hayden Fowler, the only of the lead GTE cars to stay out, and he will momentarily take over the race lead. As everyone slots into the pits. I don't expect tires. Kevin Hensel, the second of the Night Racing Esports Corvettes, stays out. In first, out first, Volters, a 26.7 second pit stop, 26.3 for Seninger. And McDonald still stopped. Tires for the BMW. So there you go. After 45 minutes, tires for the BMW of Jen McDonald. And we'll see what that does at the end of the race. We definitely saw tires make a difference at Watkins Glen in the LMP class. Remember, it was Andre Heinrich who had the fresh rubber and had a huge speed advantage on Roder. He didn't end up turning it into a win, but he certainly could have. He did get the top spot there momentarily. You watch Andreas Schwarz in the 204 car as he's got himself a podium position at the moment. And with pit stops done, it's a huge gap. I mean, who's going to challenge him for that? You naturally would say Thomas Brommel, but with that drive-through penalty and pit stop complete for both of them, it's a 30-second gap between the 204 and the 4 car. So that's a lot of time to gain, even with an hour and 15 minutes to do it. So a very, very good run shaping up here for the 204. I have to say, of what we call that second pack in LMP, he has certainly been the cream of the crop here today. He's got much more pace than Seeley, Rainey, and Ellico today, it looks like. Just want to check their best laps. A 47.8 for Andreas. Well, Keith Rainey's done a 47.8 as well. Seeley not very handy at all, a 48.7. Dean Ellico's done a 48.1. As Toby Seninger here has the 28 of Hayden Fowler right on his tail. So we're going to get this 3-car battle, and he's gone wide. The same thing we saw Fowler do earlier in front of McDonald. However, he looks to have recovered. Hensel in the pits. Just drops in behind. Him and Groniga are coming out together. There they are. But as the pit stops cycle through, and we'll do a grid rundown here in a moment, Fowler has definitely been the winner on the pit stop exchanges, and I'm just looking here. Ah, okay. Well, we know Jennifer took tires, so that explains why she's not there. Hayden Fowler, 19.5 seconds stopped, as opposed to 26.3 for Toby Seninger. So clearly a shorter fuel fill for the 28 as well. 2-hour races. This is a 2-stop race for the GTEs. As far as I know, it's a 3-stop race for the LMPs. So how you allocate that fuel. So Hayden may be on a little bit of a lighter car here. He gained the track position with a shorter pit stop. And as Andre Heinrich comes through, Hayden's going to use that track position and maybe try and get that second place. He'll have to build a little bit of a gap, because what you take early on, you have to pay back later, as Heinrich collecting a little bit of the grass coming out there onto the back straight. We're through Big Bend, and he will finally get past the 488 and allow the GTE battle to continue. As wide, boy, that's a ongoing concern, is that exit of the hairpin. And Heinrich now with all 4 wheels back under him, and he will continue on. Boy, very deep into Cunningham there. No contact though. Hensel gets back by Groniga there. These two are battling back and forth, so we're going to cut to that and watch the 59 and the 94. They came out of the pits together, and they've been swapping this position back and forth. Chris Thompson in front. He's a lap adrift. And Hensel will make the move, and he's locked all 4 wheels into the hairpin. And Groniga will retain that position. We said there's less grip here. It was noticeable in the 30-minute warm-up. As Dean Ellico is off track here. And that's going to cost him a position. Thomas Brommel has gone by. That was at Cunningham when he went off. So it's all happening. And we cut back to this battle. It's been... It's all been rotating around the second place battle in GTE. We're going to have to put our expectations up the road a bit, because we have 3 different strategies running on the 3 cars involved in that battle. Seninger looks like he's playing it straight up. He's as in the background. That was the 94 of Hensel making a very late dive into the pits. He hit some cones, and I'm not sure if he hit anything else, but he was just in the pits, so I'm not sure what's going on there. And it's dropped him down to the back of the GT field. We've had a lot of cars kind of clipping the grass and using up the limits. I wonder if some 2Xs are starting to add up here. We've already seen 2 drive-thrus for LMP cars, Brommel and Schlabs. There is Thomas, back to 6th place now. And he has 12 seconds of time to make up before he can start looking at a top 5 position. It's certainly possible. I mean, if you want to look at fast laps, he is 1.2 seconds quicker than Ellico. He's definitely one of those front pack cars. It's just, again, events beyond his control have got Thomas out of position, but he's fighting his way through. He's done the drive-through. It means he has 6x before he has to worry about anything else. We'll see if he can go up. Schwarz now, we mentioned that gap earlier. It's a little more than 30 seconds. It's 33 seconds now, that gap. So Andreas definitely, there he is there at the back of this, just coming through this battle for second. Andreas very, very well positioned for a podium here today at Sebring. Just a little over half the race remaining. We're hearing from the pits that Kevin Hensel is retiring the car. So not sure. I don't believe he hit anything on that pit road entrance. This was the incident that happened just before all of this. He was making a move on Groningen and just blew the braking zone. And then it wasn't long after that that he made his way down pit road on what looked like a very late call, I must say. I suppose he might have been loose there and just decided to let the car, save the car into the pit entrance, but it looked very, very strange indeed, and now Kevin has climbed out of the car. Seninger now is settled in after the pit stops, and heavier fuel load or not is starting to put a little bit of daylight between he and Hayden Fowler. McDonald 32 seconds down the road, but of course that's full fuel and tires, so the difference in fuel fill plus the tire change, which takes around 25 seconds. And we're going to find out where that sorts itself out. Lap times are quicker. McDonald and Seninger with basically identical lap times last time around. Fowler was 0.4 slower, and that accounts for the space between them that you see on circuit right there. This might be a good time for a rundown, so why don't we do that? We're through our first set of stops, and after coming off his first win of Season 2, the 011 of Dennis Rodders picked up where he left off, and he's come to it with similar circumstances. Contact between the 42 and the 4 car opened up the door for Dennis to take the lead from his row 2 starting position. He turned that into a victory at Watkins Glen, and we'll see if he can do it here today. He has a 3-second lead over the 32 car of Andre Heinrich, who runs behind him on the road. Andre also started in row 2 and has been hounding Dennis for the entire length of this race, and actually looks to have a slightly quicker car. They lead the 2:04 of Andreas Schwarz. Andreas looking for his first podium of the season and has had a perfect drive amongst all the chaos going on around him, and he leads the 72 car of Paul Seeley by 10 seconds. Seeley also slightly out of position after an 8th place qualifying. He's been running 4th ever since they came out of the hairpin on lap number 1. 9 seconds up the road is the 6 of Keith Rainey. Keith, running in 5th place, has had an eventful day after locking the rears into the hairpin with the Thomas Brommel Philip Stritter accident in front. He was collected by the 473. That's where the drive-through came up. I'll mention that later. He was collected slightly by the 473, and then in a battle coming down the Ullman Straight where he is now, he actually touched and spun the 473 again. Keith runs in 5th place ahead of the 4 car of Thomas Brommel. Thomas qualified 2nd but took the lead off the start and was then hit from behind and dropped all the way to the back. He's collected a drive-through penalty since, but is running very fast laps, and in 6th place is 13 seconds behind Keith Rainey, looking to get back into the top 5. He's got the car to do it and an hour of track time. The 429 of Dean Ellico runs in 7th position. Dean was the 10th place qualifier and has had a pretty clean race and an incredibly exciting back and forth battle with the 6 car of Keith Rainey. After a pit stop, he runs in 7th ahead of newcomer Oliver Schlabs. Not really the most welcoming of races in the KRL, but those things are few and far between, and Oliver's got the pace to be a contender in at least this second group of LMP cars. He sits 10 seconds behind Dean Ellico after having to serve a drive-through penalty, and I was thinking out of the top of my head, I really couldn't see how Thomas got it. We must have missed some off tracks, but of course, in the first lap melee, he clipped the front of Keith Rainey and would have collected a 4X possibly on that. He then was hit from behind and would certainly have got a 4X for that one. The only question is, why has Keith Rainey not had a drive-through penalty? Because he was involved in both of those. I think it's possible with the spin, Keith may have only got a 2X at the hairpin. And he's probably sitting on 6 or 7 incident points at the moment. But Oliver runs in 8th place and is the final runner on track in the LMP class. Philip Stritter retired on lap 1, and Dawson Hess did not make the start. As the 6 car comes through, we check in with our race leader in GTE, Jens Wolters, in the 24. Jens is putting his stamp on the GTE class after having a terrible debut at Suzuka, Japan, where he spun from the lead twice. He put it all together at Watkins Glen and is running another pole position perfect race here at Sebring. Jens has a 9.6 second lead over his front row companion, Toby Seninger. After saying he's going to keep changing liveries until he gets a race win, I think unless Jens puts a foot wrong, we may be seeing a different colored Ferrari at Road Atlanta in 2 weeks. Toby had an incredibly exciting start, actually dropped to 4th position behind Hayden Fowler and Jennifer McDonald. The 4 have been swapping positions all race long. He currently sits in 2nd place, but is running a different strategy from the 2 he's racing. He's got the advantage on Hayden Fowler, who's short-fueled to close the gap, but Toby still has the lead. Jennifer McDonald took tires, and it'll be after the 2nd stop that we see where the strategies play out. The 28 car is 2 seconds back and running in 3rd place. Hayden getting ready for the 6 hours tomorrow. There's never enough track time for the Corvette driver, and Hayden's looking very racy today in that Night Racing Esports Corvette C8R. In 4th is Jennifer McDonald. With fresh tires, she should have more grip for the remainder of this race over her 2 running mates. It's a 32-second gap up to Hayden Fowler, and that is basically the time it takes to change tires. She also took a little more fuel. Hayden will have to pay that back with a longer stop on and when these cars come back down to pit road. 17 seconds behind Jennifer is the 7 car of Kevin Cordy. Kevin in the Porsche RSR, having a great run for the Switch It team and running in the top 5. Kevin sits 8th in the championship coming into today's race and looks to make up some ground over the absent Wave Italy team. He only sits 2 points behind Dori Rashidi, who should make up at least that position. It's been an exciting day for the 59 of Steve Groninga. He also has a slightly different livery here today, and is flashing his headlamps to tell Andre Schwartz to go through. He was back and forth with Kevin Hensel there for a while. Kevin has since retired, and Steve Groninga sits in 6th position, 10 seconds ahead of the 229 of Jonathan Dinkel, the only Ford GT in the field. And John having a good race here today. He qualified very well in his 2nd race in the KRL and doing a great job here in 8th. The final car running on circuit is the 66 of Chris Thompson, just collecting a little bit of grass there, seeing that was at turn 3. Chris running in 9th place, and the last car in GTE running is Kevin Hensel, has retired the 94 car. That's your field rundown. As we head back live, we are less than an hour to go, and everybody's going to have to make, well, the LMPs are going to have to make 2 more stops, aren't they? A straight out pit strategy would be 2 full fills and a splash at the end. We have 1 car, the 72 of Seeley, who did a short fill. No tires by any of the LMPs as we look at Andre Heinrich, who has caught back up to the 011 of Dennis Rotter, and we've got a battle for the lead once again. I have to thank Andre the next time I talked to him. We did our field rundown, and he took just as long as that took to close this gap. The 72 of Seeley is in the pits. So the short fill has basically split this race in half. And we'll see if that means there's going to be tires. I would think if you're planning to change tires, doing the split race makes sense. Nobody else has done it, so the rest of the LMP field obviously thinks they can get through this 2 hours on a single set of tires. That's usually the case. The balance of power has changed the tire wear rates of the GTEs. I know there's been some talk about that. The LMPs are not affected that way, so as the 72 makes its way back out, it's a 33.4, and that is a full fill. That's exactly the same time stopped as all of the other LMPs on their first stops. So that is going to be full fuel and no tires for the 72. And he will drop to the back of the field at the moment. It's 7 seconds behind Oliver Schlabs in 7th place. There is Oliver right there. Ooh, a bit of a late dive there, but Andre Schwartz just watching that gap. Brommel now, it's still 34 seconds, so they're certainly not closing up. Brommel a 49.2 that last time around, 299, 49.3 basically. Schwartz a 48.6, so the lap times not lending themselves to that closing up. Brommel is still about 13 seconds behind Keith Rainey. There is Keith there, just coming through turns 3, 4, 5. And 4/10 quicker that time around. So Brommel looking like he may be able to catch Rainey, but I think Schwarz is a little too far up the road. We'll have to see how this plays out. Your race leader, Dennis Rotter, through Sunset. Is he on the inside? Yeah, Dennis coming in, so Seeley's done his second stop. Rotter looks like he's, although he took full fuel, didn't he, on his first stop, but he's coming in a little early. And that's going to give Andre Heinrich the lead. Hayden Fowler now has dropped well off the back of Seninger. I think we must have missed something there. The only way not to miss something with this GT field is to just have dedicated picture-in-picture cameras on, I know I'm starting to think. But that's now a 13-second gap, so for a car that came out of the pits right on the tail end, I know that gap is widening, but Hayden Fowler has definitely lost some time somewhere. Dean Ellico makes it through Le Mans. There is Seninger in the background. And Schlabs is closing that gap up to Ellico, and then we pan back, and there is the 72 of Seeley. Seeley has made his second stop, so he's a little out of position. Schlabs, you can see, has 2 stops as well on the timing board, but one of those was a drive-through. So he and Ellico should be making it down into the pits soon, and that will release the 72 back up to at least 6th place. As the race leader is going to lap the Canadian, who puts it out very wide on turn 1 and gives the line to the German. Heinrich will be coming down pit road, I would think, shortly as well. Rotter, 27.4 stopped, so a short fill there. He would have had more fuel than that. So he just decided maybe the traffic situation or the number of cars in front, he felt it was worthwhile to come down pit road, get his fuel, and turn that into a short fill, as the final fuel stop is of course going to be a short fill. Toby Seninger now with a bit of a comfort zone here in second place. With the pit stops not cycling out, we'll have to wait till Heinrich comes out, and he should be right back with Dennis Rotter. But this is now sort of the group to watch. Ellico 4 seconds up the road from Oliver Schlabs. Seeley has pitted, so we'll see when Rainey comes in, and Brommel as well, where all these guys sort out. Seeley has taken his long pit stop, which all the other cars took on their first stop. So race leader lets the 473 past. What are these guys going to do about Jens Wolters? Certainly, if he can bring this car home, he's going to take the points lead. It's 11 points. Jennifer McDonald on 50 points. Jens on 39. But as it sits, McDonald is running in 4th. After the second stops, we'll see how that pans out. She's running on the new tires, of course. But 38 points for Volters. If McDonald cannot finish in second place, that would flip the points lead over to the 24 car. As we await LMP pit stops. That gap now 3 seconds from Ellico to Schlabs. It might be decided on pit entry. See how close they are. Heinrich, the fastest car on the track that time, a 47.667. As Schlabs pits, there he is from 7th place. So Seeley will get back past him. We'll see what the 473 does. Imagine Ellico will be coming back in. There's Brummel. Through on the inside of Bishop. 28, 29, 30. So this is going to be a full stop. Are there tires going on that car? Yes. So with 45 minutes to go, Oliver Schlabs is taking tires. And that'll be the... Off the jacks coming out. So that's a 56-second stop for the 473. And so that battle with him and Ellico maybe decided on pit strategy. We'll see if Ellico takes tires. If he doesn't, he's going to have a massive track position gap. And through there, no harm, no foul, is Andre Schwarz. Heinrich and Schwarz, as well as Rainey and Ellico, all scheduled for pit road. Heinrich is in, so the race leader hits pit road. I think I'd almost be surprised if he takes tires. On the back straight is Rotter, so this is the gap we're worried about to see. Schwarz has been stopped for 10 seconds now. In behind, that was Schwarz coming in. Here comes Rotter. You can see he's still stopped. And he is taking rubber, so another car taking tires. And that means it's 26 seconds he's going to have to make up on track with those fresh tires in 45 minutes. So essentially half a second a lap. Sorry, half a second a minute. Laps are 2 minutes, so that's a second a lap. Interesting stuff. If you can't make it, you can't make it. But clearly tire management here is going to make a difference in this race. Ellico goes around again. So he will pass Schwarz, who is now on the move, stopped for 56.6. So Schwarz has also taken tires. And is that the opening that Thomas Brommel needs if he had any hopes of a podium? He sits there now, but we're going to be expecting the 4-car soon. So we have Rotter on his original tires. Rainey is yet to make his second stop. Brommel is on his original tires. Seeley also. Ellico yet to stop. Schlabs, Schwarz, and Heinrich have all taken tires on their second pit stops. As Rainey makes it into pit road from second place, it is going to be all push for the 32 car. He regains third place. Brommel's going to have to pull off in front of him. They're talking about having to make some ground. Schwarz, he's come out ahead of Seeley. There is Seeley there. It's a 5-second gap. So you've got to think that's safe. Ellico has passed Rainey. These two are back together again. Rainey has come out of the pits. Right behind his friend and teammate. We know Dean's going to have to peel off, so... we'll see. We got light fuel. Rainey now out of the pits. It was a 23.8 stop, so he did not take tires. Toby Seninger makes it down to pit road, so the second round of stops for GTE is starting. And we'll finally get to see where this strategy plays itself out. Will the 488 take tires and be back on par with Jen McDonald? He does take tires. Oh, that's interesting. So now we watch where the BMW slots through. Hayden Fowler has dropped to third place. He's made his stop. Hayden Fowler, 51.1 seconds, so I think there was rubber there too. Ellico peels off to make his second pit stop, and that will finalize the LMPs. They will all have a splash and go at the end of this race. Back out onto the circuit is Toby Seninger. So Jens Wolters with a big lead. We'll see what he does in the pits. McDonald took tires on her first pit stop. Seninger has taken tires on his second pit stop. And McDonald is, well, it hasn't pit yet, so it hasn't cycled through yet. We're waiting for it to cycle through. Wolters around. And not around the circuit again, not coming in. And just coming through Bishop now is McDonald. We know it'll be fuel only for the 99. Where is it going to cycle through with the 488 car? The gap is 25 seconds. Pit stops are 26 stopped, so that sort of tells me that McDonald may come out behind the 488. Is that an inside line? No. The larger that gap can be, the better. It's a 57.8 that time around for McDonald. Walters' outlap, of course, includes the pit time, so that 2:46 doesn't count. We'll have to wait one more circuit to find out the relative times. McDonald in the high 57s. Walters in the low 57s. We still wait. There is Rotter now leading. He has 25 seconds over Heinrich. And we've got a little bit of... We've got a replay of that, we're told. Here comes Heinrich just after the pit stop. Oh, and he's... I still saw air between those cars. So, but it certainly slowed him down. So that happened on lap 43. And maybe explains the gap. Brommel is in the pits now. We watch to see if there's tires going on this car. It's getting very good mileage on this car. 30, that's going to be full fuel very soon, and he's away, so no tires for the 4. Schwarz is going to get past. Now we know Andreas took tires, and that's closed this gap right up. As coming out of the pits, who is that? Is that Seeley in the 72? Yes, it is, and that's a battle for position. He really had to take a shallow line. There's the 488 is around. Toby Seninger has spun in the Ferrari. And that's not going to help. McDonald and Walters not come down pit road yet. But that is definitely advantage 99. All by himself down into turn 3. And just the rear end gets around on him. Oh, and that's lengthy. He had to wait for some LMPs to go by too. So that's a lengthy stop. I don't know if Jennifer knows about that, but boy, that is really going to help. Remember, if McDonald can finish in second where she is right now, that maintains the points championship lead ahead of Jens Wolters, even if Jens wins here today. So that's a big development right there with the 488. Heinrich in second now. As Paul Seeley presented with Thomas Brommel in front of him. He's actually lost out on these pit stops. With the full fill there, and the lap time's not overly handy, of 150.5 last time around. So Brommel and Schwartz have actually, Brommel has jumped him as around goes Mark Sonnen in the 111. It hasn't been Mark's day today, and we know he's been collected there. That looked like a net code from the 32, so sometimes it just happens. Wolters in the pits. And we will see the GTE leaders now. Where is McDonald? Just coming onto the back straightaway. Seninger has made that stop. Just coming through Tower Corner at the moment. That spin not helping the 488's causes. Speaking of which, Heinrich, we said he had to push. McDonald has come into the pits in behind Volters. We said he had to get about a second a lap for the rest of the race to catch up with Rotter, and that's certainly not happening. And now Heinrich been just a little raggedy in the last couple of laps. Certainly the net code's not his fault, but he's got a good second place run here. That's where he is in the standings. 16 points ahead of Stritter, who is retired. So we could see a two-car runaway here in the LMP points if we're not careful. Paul Seeley is in fourth in the points, running sixth. He's behind Brommel, who is only 1 point behind him. So Thomas is going to leapfrog into that fourth place position. As the GTEs have all done their stops now. McDonald a very short fill, 21.4. Fowler took tires, as we saw. And so, as we check in, there is Seninger. He's got second place. McDonald has come out behind him, even with the spin. So with both cars on fresh tires, it's a 3-second gap. There's McDonald in the background. So that's your battle for second place now that it's cycled through. More GTEs making their way into pit road. The big smiley face helmet there from Tovey. Kind of looks like the co-pilot from Airplane. So there's your battle to watch. Seninger and McDonald. It looks like Heinrich. There he is. Not making up the time. He was actually a second slower that last lap than Dennis Rotter was in the lead. So those new tires not doing what they were hoped for. As we cross into the final half hour here at Sebring. We remind you that in 2 weeks, we will be going 90 minutes around Road Atlanta. It was a circuit that most of the league members voted to have on the Season 2 schedule. What that means as far as attendance, I'm not sure. We're still hoping to have a 30-plus grid on one of these races. And where else but to hope to have it then on a circuit that everybody voted to have on the schedule. So we look forward to Road Atlanta in 2 weeks. And then after that, we will finish up the North American part of the schedule with 2 hours at Daytona. Always a fan and driver favorite. And Dennis Rotter trying to bank the points here, as it has to be said, certainly at Watkins Glen last week, it seemed that Thomas had the speed out of that team. Thomas out-qualified him again today, but circumstances playing in the favor of Dennis Rotter, and he's maximizing his good fortune for the race win last week and looking as though he's good to do it again this week. With 5 races remaining, you might as well get the points at hand if in fact your teammate does have the better of you overall in speed, but you got to get to the end. And although not really Thomas's fault in either occasion, It's going to be a little bit of a hill to climb here. We'll see what the points are at the end of the race. Thomas up into that top 5 position. He has passed Paul Seeley after the pit stop, so the 72 a little out of position with that short fill at the beginning, and now sitting back in 6th. Still not bad considering qualified 8th, but of course 2 cars who qualified up in front have retired from the race. So basically on qualifying pace. Speaking of maximizing, Jens Wolters in the 24. Having another incredible run. As Ellico has spun in the 429. And that's down at Collier. Arm, no foul there. Just checking the gaps. Still 13 seconds ahead of Oliver Schlab, so maybe we'll get away with that one. Nobody really around him on circuit. Battle for second place in GTE is up in front. And here's a battle here. Andreas Schwarz and Keith Rainey. Keith Rainey is in 3rd. What have I missed here? And they're going to be battling here for 3rd place. So onto the podium for the American here. And I have to admit, I'm a little surprised at how this situation has created itself, but I'm all for it. And Rainey pulling a gap away down there. And did he clip that wall? And I saw some concrete flying there from the 6 car. We do have a replay of this one. This is Rainey coming out. Oh, he hit that wall hard. That's not the same wall either. And that's what closed up the gap to Andreas Schwarz. So Keith Rainey, that was a big hit on the wall in Sunset. Now we know that Schwarz took tires, so that's what put Rainey out front into that 3rd position. Schwarz has now closed that gap up, so that's just getting all my facts straight here. Keith Rainey, of course, it has not taken tires, so that's the position change that was confusing me. I haven't been watching these guys that closely, but that's a battle for the final podium position in LMP, and we'll be watching that. 23 minutes remaining. Heinrich with a fast lap there, quickest on the circuit that time around, has closed down the gap to 20 seconds. But it's still now, it's a second a minute, which is 2 seconds a lap pretty much. That he's going to have to get to try and close in on Rotter. Rotter can control this race now. Senator McDonald holding steady with that 3-second gap. Actually getting closer to 4 seconds at the moment, although Heinrich had just come through McDonald. We'll see what that gap, how that gap's affected here. That pretty straightforward. I don't think Toby would have lost too much time. Pretty clean pass before Bishop. So the two GTEs holding station here in the battle for second place. Checking gaps down the field, fairly stationary. The closest race is that battle for third place between Keith Rainey and Andreas Schwarz. Two cars that would dearly love to have a podium finish here. And it is now 9 seconds further back to Thomas Brommel. Thomas has opened the gap to the 72. It's a 7-second gap there, but checking those lap times, Brommel a 48.6. Schwarz and Rainey in the 49, so this could be a three-way thing here before the end of the day. And big points on the line there. Schwarz, actually Seeley leads that sort of second group of LMPs. He's on 30 points. Schwarz only 3 behind, so this is a good day for him. Rainey 15 behind. He, of course, missed the opening round with internet issues. But to keep the realism of the series, we're going to say electrical problems in that number 6. So, and off again, and that's giving the position. It's back up to third for Schwarz. Those old tires may be letting him down a little on the exit of turn 5, and Andreas Schwarz is back on the podium here at Sebring. The 204 car having his best day of the year. Just checking, it was a 5th at Suzuka, a 6th at Watkins Glen. And he would clearly overtake Seeley in the points, only being 3 behind coming into this round. If he were to have a podium, Heinrich's still the fastest car on circuit. 2.2 seconds he gained at last lap on Rotter. And he's got that gap under 18. So never say never. 32 car is flying here. There's Seninger. We check back into that GTE battle. He's 19 seconds off the lead. Nobody's going to catch Wolters unless he does something very uncharacteristic. Well, we all saw Suzuka, but I'm still going to say uncharacteristic. We'll put that down to coming to grips with the new car. How about that? But Seninger 19 back and still with a 3-second gap. It's stabilized there. But McDonald is within pouncing distance for sure. As Schlabs has, no, that's not Schlabs in behind there. That's Heinrich coming through. So that'll be a blue flag. The gap for 7th, still 7 seconds. Heinrich, no time to wait for Lamont corner. He puts it down on the inside and gets by. Chris Thompson sees what's coming and gets well out of the way. Rotter improved to a 49.1. Let's see what this lap was for Heinrich. A 48.9 having to deal with traffic. He's quicker, but only by 0.2. And the gap still just under 18 seconds with 18 minutes to go. Schwarz has already put 4 seconds between himself and Keith Rainey. And Rainey now starting to come into the grips of Thomas Brommel. That gap is 5 seconds. And speaking of putting a gap between himself and Rainey there, fastest on the circuit that time around was the 2:04 of Andreas Schwarz, a 1:48 dead. So that's a great lap time. Doing what he needs to do. If Rommel gets by Rainey, it'll be a straight up fight, and we still have 17 minutes to go. The gap is 9 seconds from the 4 car to the 2:04, and Brommel pips Schwarz by 0.2 of a second. I think Andreas will take that all day long. If he's only going to get him by 0.2 a lap, he's never going to catch him. And just checking, Schwarz has Kevin Fowler ahead of him, and then a little bit of empty track up to that second place battle in GTE, which on the map looks pretty darn close. Something happen up there, boys? No, Toby looks like he's been behaving himself. Jennifer as well coming through Mark Sonnen here. So the LMPs will have to navigate through this sharp end of the GTE field. And catching the back of it on the Ullman Straight, that couldn't have worked out better for Andreas. Jonathan Dinkel is in the pits. And that's the 4th time. I wonder if he's having some drive-through issues. There's Jonathan in the fast lane. Looks like that is a drive-through for some incidents. We've seen a lot of cars just kind of catching the grass on corner exits and things, so those 1Xs will add up, especially in a 2-hour race. You really have to manage and keep your car together. Paul Seeley, the first of the LMPs to come in. That's the other. We still have splash and goes on all these cars. So take your gaps under consideration. There is still a trip down pit road for all of the LMPs. Seeley in for a quick splash. Brommel has been stopping after all these cars. I just quickly look. Andreas Schwarz has been out. He's on his 16th lap since pitting. Brommel on his 12th lap. So he has 4 more laps of fuel, 34.6. He definitely has 4 more laps of fuel than all these cars. So where is this final splash and go going to happen? He couldn't really do this race on 2 stops, could he? He's been down the road 3 times, but one was a drive-through early on in the race. Brommel again, the quickest car on circuit, 47.8, and that is half a second quicker than Schwarz was on that lap. He gives Hayden a little courtesy flash to say, I'm going to go through on the entrance to the corner. As he comes around again, Rainey is coming in for his splash and go. Brommel will be promoted to 4th place. 48.3 that time around, a little slower, but 0.4 quicker than Andreas Schwarz. The gap now 7 seconds. Seeley out of the pits, and oh, that's Heinrich coming through. The gap has stabilized again as Rotter makes his stop. Heinrich will take over the lead here. He's going to have to come down too. It's Brommel, the one we're thinking about here, because Schwarz is going to have to come down, and with 12 minutes left, 12 and a half, We know Thomas Brommel has 4 more laps of fuel in that car. Thomas on his 13th lap, Schwarz on his 17th lap on this stint. How much fuel has Thomas Brommel saved here, and can he turn it into a podium? Jennifer McDonald completes her 54th lap and allows the 4 car past. Heinrich, Schwarz, and Brommel have not made their third stops. There is the car Jennifer is chasing, the 488. And still 3.5 seconds, the gap between those two. Staggeringly stable. Both turned in 1:57.4s the last time around. For the record, McDonald was 0.07 of a second quicker on the last lap. Another replay of Heinrich. What's going on with the 32 car? As that gap is back over 18 seconds, and he's pushed it off. That's that exit of turn 5. We've seen a lot of cars doing that. And but the time he had to make up, it was push. And there was no alternative. He's got a huge gap in behind him. So, I don't think... No, he's got 19 seconds. The time down pit road with the splash is, you can see in here, Rodder's pit road time was 36.3 with 12 seconds stop, 12.9. So I don't think there's any way Heinrich is going to be close to the 011 when he comes out. This is the car we're watching, the 204, a 47.7, Brommel, a 49.6. So that helps a great deal. The gap is 8 seconds. And with 10 minutes left, this is the battle for the podium. We believe both cars have to stop, but 4 laps is 8 minutes. A little under, 7.5 minutes. If Schwarz can get to 7 minutes left in this race, even 6 to be safe, because you're going to have to go past 0. Brommel has 4 minutes or 4 laps more fuel in his car. So if Schwarz can make it to a point where there's 4 or less laps left, we think Brommel will be able to make it to the end without stopping. So we're watching both of those cars carefully. Sonnen and Fowler. Clipping a little bit of grass there was Fowler, I think. Schlabs makes his final pit stop from 7th. And I think Ellico should probably regain that position. That's been a close battle throughout the race as well. And around sunset comes the 204. No pit stop, which means there'll be 7 minutes left when he comes around the next time. Schlabs comes out of the pits, and he's going to be about 8 seconds behind Ellico, so Dean will maintain 7th place. This is fascinating stuff. I'm starting to convince myself I've missed something. But the gap is 7 seconds exactly. Brommel a 47.9, 0.8 of a second quicker than Andreas Schwarz the last time around. Still watching that battle for second to GTE. It's a 4-second gap. Fowler is 11 seconds further down the road from McDonald. Brommel's got a little bit of traffic to deal with here now. He's got the race leader in GTE, and then Oliver Schlabs, the 8th place car in LMP. Between he and Schwarz, so you've got to think Schwarz is coming down this lap. That would put it right on the line for Brommel. And he waits for Lamar and is, I mean, yes, he's waiting. That's the class leader, but that's going to save you fuel too. How much fuel is in that 4 car? Schwarz goes around again, which means if he pits on the next lap, there's 5 minutes to go in the race. Let's say an additional lap on that, 6.5 minutes. I'm starting to think Thomas Brommel is going to make it to the end of the race. And if he does that, he will easily take 3rd place. How much fuel can he save? I can't imagine. Andreas is on his 21st lap. There's no way he's going to make it to the end. He's going to have to pit based on the stint lengths of this class so far. Brommel on his 17th lap with 6 minutes to go. This will be a mastercraft in fuel saving as Heinrich makes it down into the pits finally. 21 laps complete. Schwarz is on his 21st lap, so I expect the 204 down this time around. It's a quick stop and go. Rotter is going to retake the lead. Where is Rotter? Just coming down the front straight now. So as the 32 gets back up and running, it is Dennis Rotter to the lead with 5 minutes to go. And in behind, coming down the Almond Straight, I think we're going to see Andreas Schwarz relinquish 3rd place here. And that is going to hand the final podium spot to Thomas Brommel, who may have saved enough fuel. 5 minutes remaining. Brommel to 3rd place. And he starts his 18th lap of this stint, which means he could do 3 more laps if he's getting the same mileage that Schwarz got on that stint. And that's going to take us past the 0 mark. Thomas Brommel, after being punted off for the 2nd race in a row in turn 1, well, it was turn 5 in this one, but on the first lap, looks to have done a masterclass in fuel saving and may just take this 3rd podium position at Sebring. Up front, it's Dennis Rotter with a 6-second lead now that the pit stops have cycled through over Andre Heinrich. In GTE, Jens Wolters has done it again and has a 19-second lead over the 488 of Toby Seninger, who, despite his issues today with a couple of little issues, has got himself 5 seconds up the road from Jennifer McDonald. Hayden Fowler is 4th, but he's another 10 seconds down the road. Thomas Brommel now, he's got almost 30 seconds. He can just save all the way around. He's done a 47.7, the fastest lap on circuit. Does that mean he's got enough fuel to get him to the end? 3 minutes plus whatever it takes to get around. It depends where Rotter takes the white flag. A little puff of smoke there from our LMP class leader. He's just got to manage these final 2 or 3 minutes. And he'll extend his points lead with an additional 38 to the 65 he's got right now. It's been another perfect day for the 011. Andreas Schwartz, not much to do now. Brommel with that fast lap. Where is he? Just coming through Le Mans right now. Heinrich puts in a 47.757. Takes a second out of that lead. I think he's probably got 2 laps left to do it. I imagine Rotter is going to get the white flag the next time around. He's just coming through Big Bend. And that's going to add time. This is going to be interesting for Brommel, who does put in another fast lap. Rotter is going to get the white flag right around the 0 mark, so everybody's going to have to do an additional full lap here. So how tight is that 4 car? He's currently running on his 20th lap of the stint. He's got a lot of track position. 27 seconds between Brommel and Schwarz on track. If he's got the fuel, it's not an issue. If he has to save fuel, how much is he going to have to save? Because here comes Rotter. He's not going to get the white flag until right around the 0 mark. And Brommel just now coming down through Tower Corner. So he's got another full lap and a half to go. Here he is in the tow of Oliver Schlads. I'd like to say he's trying to save fuel all the way to the end, but he's the fastest car on circuit, a 47.2 the last time around. A full 9/10 of a second quicker than his teammate who's leading the race. And he's done a green sector in sector 1. So certainly not holding back. We're on the last lap. Dennis Rotter comes through Big Bend on the last lap. Race leader in GTE is just at Le Mans, Jens Wolters. 3.7 seconds now the gap to Andre Heinrich, but that seems to be like that's being managed. Starting his final lap is Jens Wolters in GTE. McDonald closing a little bit on Seninger, but not enough to really make a dent. So after 2 hours in Central Florida and another perfect race, your winner in LMP2 in 011 is Dennis Rotter. Andre Heinrich will come home in second place. And the astounding strategy of turning another horrible bad luck first lap, Thomas Brommel has done the impossible and brought his car home on the podium. What a drive for the 4 car. And they've spread themselves right out. So we get the LMP podium done, and that gives us a clean look at the GTE class. Everyone from 4th place down has finished. Hayden Fowler was behind Rotter on circuit. And speaking of perfect days, it is back-to-back wins in GTE, as well as Jens Wolters goes from pole to checkers and wins at Sebring. And coming off the Allman Straight for the final time, the 488 of Toby Seninger will come home in 2nd place, ahead of the 99 of Jennifer McDonald. So a great day here at Sebring. And here are your final results. In LMP2, Dennis Rotter, Andre Heinrich, and Thomas Brommel, a double unleashed podium, and an incredible drive for the 4-car. Andreas Schwarz doesn't get that podium position, but will come home in 4th ahead of Keith Rainey and Paul Seeley. Oliver Schlab's debuts in 7th place ahead of Dean Ellico. They swap positions on the last lap. Philip Stritter will be classified in 9th, and Dawson Hess, who did not start. In GTE, Jens Wolters, Toby Seninger, and Jennifer McDonald, your podium. Hayden Fowler comes home in 4th place. Kevin Cordy and Steve Groninga, 6th. Mark Sonnen, after a difficult day, will finish in 7th place ahead of John Dinkle and Chris Thompson. Kevin Hensel retired and did not finish in the 94 car. And what that does for our points, you can see that Dennis Rotter now has a 15-point lead over Andre Heinrich, 103 to 88. Thomas Brommel, with that incredible run, has put himself up into 3rd place ahead of Philip Stritter. Andreas Schwarz, Paul Seeley drops to 6th. Keith Rainey, Dean Ellico, and Oliver Schlabs. Dawson Hess will be rewarded with 2 points. We'll have to look at that for a 10th place finish. The GTE points, as we get that music turned off, Jens Wolters now up to 77 points. He will overtake Jennifer McDonald in GTE by 4 points. Toby Seninger in 3rd, now 20 points back ahead of Hayden Fowler. Kevin Cordy in 6th. Hensel will drop to 7th place ahead of Steve Groninga. So join us in 2 weeks' time. The 90 Minutes at Road Atlanta will be the next race, 3rd of April, and we'll have it here for you on YouTube on the 4th of April, before we head back to Daytona for a 2-hour race and then finish off the season at Nürburgring, Spa-Francorchamps, and Le Mans, France. Thanks for watching us here at the Night Racing League Sportscar Championship, and we'll see you in 2 weeks at Road Atlanta.